All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome everyone to another episode of Talks with V. It's Transforming with V, and I'm super excited about this evening show. We are talking about transforming your business. But before we get into it, if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the HBCU Lounge Network. Tonight we are streaming live with them, and also the V Bailey Network on YouTube. And if you are already subscribed, make sure that you share this and like it. And we are just ready to get into this conversation about transforming your business. Well, our guest tonight is Dr. Kevin Lambert, and he is licensed psychologist and CEO of Great Life Counseling. So welcome, Dr. Lambert. How are you this evening?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So before we get into some of the questions, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and, how you got into psychology.
Well, the story of psychology and me getting into psychology is kind of a long one, so I'll try to give a shorter version of it. So when I was a kid, like a lot of young Black boys, my original dream was to make it to the league and be able to play in the NBA. And basketball was my number one passion. And so, I didn't, in terms of school and stuff like that, I was a solid student, AB student, but my motivation a lot of times was to make sure I had good enough grades so my parents would let me play. Right. And so I didn't like to do a lot of like extra reading and stuff like that unless it had something to do with basketball, or unless it was required, right? So, but anyway, one summer, actually every summer, when we would be home for the summer, my mom would have give us a list of chores for us to do before she got home from work. And being the budding leader that I was as the oldest, I would take the list and I would delegate some parts of the list to my younger siblings, and then I would decide what part I was going to do. And so one summer day when I was 12 years old, the job that I decided to take on was to clean out the closet. And it was a closet full of books and all kinds of dusty stuff. And so it just so happened that week I had been having some bad dreams. And I had a really dear friend of mine who we would have a lot of conversations about, philosophy and life and stuff like that. And so I really wondered, like, why do we have these dreams? What do the dreams mean? All of these sort of things. And so as I was cleaning out the closet, I came across my mom's intro to psychology book from her college days. And there just so happened to be a book, like a chapter of the book that was on REM sleep and dreams. And so after having pulled out all of the books out into the middle of the floor, I decided that I needed to read this and I need to read it now. And so I started reading that. I read that chapter, and then I went into the next chapter, and I was just completely engrossed in it, to the point where, of course, I'm still sitting in the middle of this big old mess reading as my mom comes in the door from work. And my mom's like, what the heck is going on here? And my response is, hey, Mom, I figured out what I'm going to do if I don't make it to the NBA. And gladly, she decided to be a sport and say, okay, I'll play along. Like, what are you going to do, son? And a psychiatrist, at the time, I didn't know the difference between a psychiatrist or a psychologist. We could talk about that in a minute. But I said, I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And she said, well, good. Now clean up this mess.
Right. You got to clean that.
Right. So, and so from that point on, I never wavered. That was kind of my plan B. If I quickly found out a couple of years later that that my height and my body was not going to fit the NBA profile, and I came to realize that I was much more likely to be successful with my brain than I was with my physical ability. So, but yeah, that is kind of how I got into psychology. I've always been passionate about helping and serving people. I've always been kind of that guy that everybody would turn to for not just advice, but support and guidance. And so, since I can remember, so it's just always been a role that I've played in some capacity. And it just kind of took off from there. And then when I got to undergrad, I quickly found out that I'm not so great at the hard sciences, biology and chemistry. And so while I was doing an internship at a psychiatric hospital, the psychiatric nurses and folks there discovered that I had a special gift for connecting and bonding with people. And so they thought about graduate college. And so I was like, what is this that you speak of? And so I found that actually fit me hand in glove, and started applying to graduate schools, and the rest is history.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like it just chose you, which I feel like a lot of times, when things are connected to your purpose and just, like your person, what you're meant to do. Sometimes we don't know, that that's where we're going, or sometimes we kind of got a little feeling, but we like run from it. And so it's pretty awesome how that all comes together. So what led you to becoming a business owner? A lot of times, there's people out there and they're comfortable being, a steady Eddie, as my old boss used to say, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, what caused you to say, all right, I'm going to start my own business?
Yeah. So during my first year of graduate school, I always had the idea, always kind of had the entrepreneurial itch. Even when I was younger, I would, when Sam's Club came on the scene, we were one of the families, one of the first families to kind of jump in on that bandwagon. And I would ask my mom to kind of buy like Now and Laters and different types of candy or whatever that I could go to school and sell. And so, I would cut yards, and I would just do different things to try to earn some money to be able to buy stuff, normally for basketball. But it was just, to have a little spending money. And so I've always like enjoyed, little small businesses. And I always thought that as a doctor, I would have a practice possibly. But when I was my first year of graduate school, God gave me a vision while I was in the airport coming back from visiting with my family on Labor Day. And it just basically was a vision of what I'm doing now, which was he showed me a building and it was like just basically showed me that I would have this family practice that would basically provide a one-stop shop for families to come and get their services. Now, of course, God gives us a vision, and then we put a little something else on top of it. So it's just like God gave me the vision, and then I started going, oh, and then I could do this, and then I could do this.
Right.
And I soon found out that no, that's not what he said. That was you. So, and even though some of those were like cool ideas, they were, even now I'm like, yeah, no. Let's just be great at what we do, because I had this idea of like having this huge like enterprise of like, okay, we're gonna have we're going to have a gym and we're going to have all of these wellness things and,
Mm.
which sounds really cool, but
Yeah.
trying to develop a business just on psychology and the practice of psychology is a big enough bear.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. But it's a beautiful vision. And I hope that it does come true one day. I seen that you guys just welcomed a new psychologist. I believe that's what I read. So just not to Rachel, Dr. Rachel, or
Oh, oh no, that's my daughter. Uh,
oh, okay, okay.
yeah, we don't have any new. We're expecting new hires to start in August, but right now we are, still like interviewing and recruiting new people
Okay,
to join the
awesome.
practice. Yeah, but our new people normally start in August. Yeah, August or September.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good. Good time. So all those people who try and get all their doctor's appointments in and find a new doctor or meet their their quota and all that before December. Oh my goodness, it's such a nightmare towards the end. Around the holidays to get appointments. So yeah, it gets a little tight. So I'm sure the
Yeah,
more psychologists, the better, especially during
yeah,
the holidays. um,
yeah.
I was going to ask you. So there are many hurdles when it comes to starting a business. How do you overcome, those obstacles?
Yeah. So I mean, when I was so I had that vision my first year
Hmm.
of graduate school. But graduate school is for to getting your doctorate in psychology is a long road. And so as I was going through that process, I kind of put it on the shelf because I just, I didn't have time to be thinking about building a business. I'm just trying to survive graduate school. So
Right.
once I got done with graduate school, at the end, we have to go on an internship or a residency. And so I did my internship residency here in Dallas at a place called Salesmanship Club, now called Momentous Institute.
Mm.
It was a phenomenal experience, and I've always wanted to live in Dallas, so that was always it was just a perfect fit on so many fronts. And then my first job after that was with SMU. Well, SMU was a curveball, but that was also a God thing because, I landed that job um, without much background working in college counseling. And so getting that job was a huge blessing because it put me in position to not only get a lot more experience working with adults and working with all kinds of stuff that you see on a college campus, but it also put me in position to go to the Cox School of Business, which was a huge piece of my story in terms of me kind of getting equipped to be able to do what I do now. Because I had, in my graduate program, they didn't teach us anything
Mm.
about how to run a business. So, um, now I could have learned a lot from colleagues and just gotten tips from them and figured things out as I went. But
Mhm.
going to business school and getting my MBA from Cox School of Business was very instrumental in terms of just shifting my mindset, helping me to learn. A lot of people thought I was kind of crazy going back to school because I went back to school to get my MBA like a year after no, 2 years after I graduated with my doctorate. So they're like,
Mm.
you just got your doctorate degree. What are you doing? Like, why do you need to go back to school? You must really love school. And it was like, no, it's the mindset. It's like, I, you know, a psychologist, we're big hearted, bleeding heart people. We would almost do this for free if we didn't need to make a living to pay our bills. And so that also makes us not such good business people.
Right.
And so I wanted to go back to school because I believe that wouldn't it be cool to have somebody that's extremely passionate about the work,
Hmm.
but also is knowledgeable and savvy about the business side of it too? Because most of the time, they're not the same people. The people that control the purse strings they're more concerned about bottom line than they are about the work itself and really serving the community. And so I just thought it'd be really cool to have a boss that had a insight and passion for all of it. And so I decided to go back to school, get my MBA. And then as I wrapped that up, I started to kind of build my practice. And I was still at SMU, but like just kind of doing it on the side. And so business school taught me a lot about just how to work Excel spreadsheets, how to think about business strategy. My concentrations or majors were strategic leadership and entrepreneurial strategy.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time in the classroom just studying why businesses fail, how bad leadership can destroy cultures, can destroy the success of an organization.
Right.
And of course, finance classes, different things like that. Just the interesting thing is that like learning about all these things, nobody, not even my entrepreneur professors, could tell me specifically how to do what I'm doing.
Wow.
But all they could do was give me tools and strategies, I would say almost more so for what not to do. Like, just like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. Don't do this because that's stupid. And like, here's how, let me have you read all these vignettes and stories of like all of these businesses that basically are cautionary tales, like Blockbuster and, different companies that we know about that were huge at one point, and then they just kind of crashed and burned because they didn't adapt well, or they didn't have the right leadership. And so like, yeah, it's a long answer to sort of like, in terms of like adapting to the challenges that I experience today. A lot of that is, just really continuing to be open to learning from different people.
Right.
I'm always trying to borrow different ideas and strategies from other people that I respect, and trying to lean on my leadership training and my, a lot of the training that I got at Cox, where I just, will have an idea and I'll get the spreadsheets out and I'll do projections and I'll, talk to people, some of my classmates I still keep in touch with, that I'll, hey, let me run this by you. And how's this sound to you? And getting their ideas in regards to like what it, to help them, have them poke holes in it and kind of help me kind of brainstorm it. They don't need to know my business inside and out, just
right.
help me to see what I'm not thinking about. And just sometimes questions are really helpful, to have somebody like just ask questions. When you're a dreamer, you don't always want to hear the questions because you just like, it feels like it's taking the air out of your tires, if you will. But but I have found that it does feel better when I ask for it, versus when it's given to me unsolicited, because then it feels more like hate or doubt when it's given unsolicited. But when I ask for it, it actually feels really good because it's what I want. It's what I asked for. So,
right. No, that makes so much sense. And I get you on that, the dreamer part. You're just like, oh, when you get the feedback that you're just like, when it's unsolicited, you're just like, oh my gosh, you're just a hater. I need someone who believes in it like me, and so I totally get that. But that's great advice, because we still need to hear that, regardless if you want to hear it or you don't. At the end of the day, you want your business to flourish. You want to be successful, not only just for you to be successful. That's not even a lot of times, especially in the type of work, that you do. And a lot of people who just are a lover of people, you want that to be successful so that you can make a difference. And so you have to put your pride to the side and get over the ego because it's there. You're like, oh, shoot, I guess I do kind of have a big ego and didn't realize. Calm it down. And so, yeah, you want to take that helpful, constructive criticism from
Yeah.
those who love you. And even sometimes those who don't, they still might have good feedback that you have to keep an open mind to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going on to our next question, you kind of were touching on it, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about those tips on transforming your business or even getting your business started. There's some people who are out there that are thinking like, dang, I want to start this business, or I know I'm meant to start this business, but I have no idea where to start. And you kind of mentioned a little bit about like when you were a dreamer, sometimes you're not that great in the business side. I mean, for me, I have so many great ideas, but I need someone I got some of the business pieces, but not, there's a difference for a person who actually majored in business and they studied and they are mastering this thing versus a person who is good at something, whether it is you're a chef and you want to start a restaurant, or you make candles, or you create bags. You need someone on the other side who is all about the business because you're the creative.
Yeah.
So what would be some tips that you have for those new business owners or those who are dreaming about this business and just need that confidence?
I would say, well, first, like, just be humble about what you don't know.
Mm.
You know, there's a saying like, don't let what you think you know keep you from the discovery of what you don't.
Mm.
Um,
Wise words.
And so, because the more you know, hopefully that should reveal to you how much you don't know. And so, just as you're embarking on this journey, I think, just being mindful of resources and different people that could be helping you and could be guiding you. Don't try to reinvent the wheel completely. It's great to have a unique business model and niche because that's going to separate you. But, my entrepreneur professors used to say all the time, ideas are a dime a dozen, and so a lot of times we're so busy like protecting the idea that we don't solicit the support to actually make the idea a reality. And so, you could be so protective about your brilliant idea, but it doesn't matter because you can't get it up off the ground because you don't have the support for it. And so you have to share the idea and trust that you're probably the only one that can boldly and uniquely make it happen because this is something that God has given to you. So, nobody's going to be able to just take it away or steal it. It's a concept that has to be followed through. And if God's got his hand on it, it's going to be on it. Even if somebody else tried to do it with you, or do it alongside you or over here, it's just not quite the same thing. It's just not going to have that same pizzazz, if you will. So the other thing I would say is, test it out. Don't quit your day job. I had one of my entrepreneur professors that would say that was cheating because you're not taking this big leap of faith on the business. But I say it's smart because especially when you've got bills to pay or family to support. And in my case, I had 2 little kids at the time and a family to support. I could not afford to be chasing this dream at the expense of them. So the time invested was already a sacrifice for them. The last thing I wanted to put them through was the business not being successful. And now we're we can't make ends meet. So that wasn't something that I was willing to deal with. So I kept my day job for about 2 years. Okay. I kept it full time, and then the last year or so, I started to. I was like part time, and then 2 years, like 2 years near, like for the most part, I did like full time for about a year or two, and then part time for about the rest of the way, and then so that was 2012 when I like actually got going with the business, and then 2015 was when I left SMU. And then I was doing it full time. And by that point, the business was already kind of thriving, and I was, burning the candle at both ends, and I was stretched where something had to give. And that's kind of where you want to be. You want to be where it's like, okay, I got to choose now, because I can't do both anymore.
Exactly.
And so that's what I tell my people, my associates all the time. Like, we like good problems like that. Like, we like problems where we have too much demand and we don't have enough people to see them. Like, I would much rather have that problem than we don't have enough demand,
right.
And so me feeling like I'm stretched thin because I have too much work to do, it's a good problem, and so I ended up making that decision and then taking that leap of faith. The other thing I would say is that, growing a business really, really helped my walk with God and like in my faith, because it was like, okay, I can't blame nobody else if this doesn't go right. So it's me and you, it's me and you, Lord. Like, if you're like, I know you got me, but like you really gotta have me right now, because it's me and you. And I brought on people to help support, and my practice kind of steadily grew, but people come and go. People that I thought would be with me forever, like, end up leaving for one reason or another. And it's just part of life. Life takes people away. Sometimes people just aren't what you think they are, all these different things. So it's just the realities of like, as you're building a business, it can be a very rewarding journey. It can be lonely sometimes, so I kind of think of my business as another child. So.
Right. Well, speaking of children and, your family, of course, not letting them down. Tim had a question about what role did your family play in your success journey? Mm-hmm. Important, the support, sometimes you might have a supportive family, but the ones that do, a lot of people there, they have great support from their family. So what role did they play in your success journey?
I think that just being a sounding board, and then there's, my immediate family in terms of my wife and kids, just them trying to be understanding that, of the time that it's taking from me, my ability to be present or to be available to them, definitely hindered. And still continues to be at times where I've got work to do. I'm home, but I'm not really home because I'm still working. I'm still on the computer and working on things and trying to get in front of something. I would say family and friends, because my close friends, I've always been kind of that guy, the glue guy that always is like planning things and getting the fellas together and doing things to kind of call people, connect people. And so, just the weight and the stress of like trying to build the business and do things to the level of excellence that I demand of myself, made it very difficult for me to just be Kevin sometimes, and so, in those growing pains, I would kind of disappear a little bit and kind of be very much kind of hyper focused on work and home. And that was really all I had time for, you know?
Right.
So I would definitely say, you know, be mindful of your health too, because it's something that I'm starting to attend to much better in this year in terms of just taking better care of myself and making more room to not just make that a third bucket, so to speak.
That's so important. Just make sure that you are taking care of yourself in all of this, because sometimes I think I'm sure it can be very overwhelming, just looking at all sides of it. But like you mentioned, which I love, what you mentioned is that sometimes we get discouraged, or we can get discouraged about, oh, what if someone else, tries to take my idea? And sometimes we are, I guess, really holding on to this thing so tightly that it can't grow. I remember with the church, they had a business, like a business virtual conference some time ago, like I think during the pandemic, around that time. And one of the business owners, I think she was over the hair business, and she was just saying that, a lot of times, businesses, you'll try to grow them and you'll start them, they can fail, like you'll fail several times. But one thing that she had to learn is not hanging onto her business so hard, where she was just trying to do everything and not, just kind of not letting, the people that she hired, do what they're meant to do, because she just wanted to kind of keep her hands on everything so tight. And she was just saying that will burn you out. And your business it won't take off because of that. The burnout is real. We know that even with working at a regular job, you can get burnt out if you're not careful, and if you're not taking care of yourself. So I thought that was really, really great advice, because I think that we are like, it's my baby. No, I don't, how are you what are you doing? It's just like, hire people that you can trust, that believe in your business, and that, like, okay, this section of the business is in good hands, because you can't, the smartest thing is to not hire another you, but someone who is an expert in a different area where you are not the expert, in the areas that you are not good at, as we mentioned earlier about the dreamer and then the person who is the master of business.
Well, I got to give kudos to our pastor, Pastor Conway, who I consider a friend as well. Like he and I were kind of share notes and kind of share tips with each other. And one of the game-changing things that he shared with me was the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And it kind of speaks to this in regards to the title is Who Not How, the formula to achieve bigger goals through accelerating teamwork. And it basically, the kind of thesis of the book is really about, not trying to do everything and really giving much more thought to being resourceful, and looking for people who are really great at what they do and hiring them to do that so that you can focus on what you're great at. And so, that's easier said than done, though, because, trying to find people, just hiring people that are really good quality is a challenge in and of itself. People that have a level of work ethic, or people who are professional, organized, all of these things, like, they're not as easy to find all the time. And so, and then in the really good ones are hard to hang on to, and so that creates a bit of a challenge, I think, as a business owner, trying to find those people and then trying to find ways to get them to stay, but then at the same time not being at their mercy to the point where now you're killing your profit margins because, they just, they cost too much,
Right.
so it's like just trying to figure out like, okay, what's, obviously if they add to the pie, then obviously pay them. But if they, at some point it's like there's diminishing returns and it's like, okay, I really would love to keep you, but I can't afford you anymore. So, which, I take a lot of pride in just being able to feel like people, we're a training site at Great Life Counseling Center. So we train young docs and docs in training, and we have partnerships with the other doctoral programs here in Dallas. And so, two other doctoral programs here in Dallas. And so I take a lot of pride in just being able to develop people and, to be able to say, okay, these people, like we have a Great Life, I call it the Great Life alumni, where we got people who got their start with us or trained with us. And now hopefully they're out there doing their own thing, impacting people's lives. And, that makes me proud, a proud papa as well.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And speaking of that and just taking pride in that training, many times we don't realize that the business ideas that we have, it's not, it's just one thing, but it's going to expire, and transform someone else's life. So what has it meant to you to see your business transform and to see how your business has transformed people's lives, through the work that you do?
Yeah. I think I have the coolest job ever. I get to meet new people. I get to impact people's lives. I mean, and see people change and even just, being a, kind of a Kevin Bacon in my field, if you will, of like somebody that's always kind of connecting people. And even on my own team, just, I may not have been the one that supervised somebody on my team, but, I created the opportunity for that to happen. And just knowing that my business is, creating those opportunities, and then those people are creating opportunities and impacting people, and just the ripple effect of that. It's pretty exciting and humbling too, that God uses me that way to have that kind of impact. So to make a nice, decent living doing that, I think it's insane to me. It's like, this is just awesome. So yeah, I really love what I do. I'm humbled and honored that I get to do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I really love that. It's the goal, I think, for people who are just, everyone. I was going to say dreamers, but just everyone, if there's something that you're very passionate about and good at, you would love to be able to do that and get paid for it, right? And let that be your life, because there's a lot of us that are out here working for someone, but we're very passionate about something else, or just, really gifted in another area. And we're just trying to figure out, how can I make this my livelihood, so I can give my whole self, to this passion. So it's always beautiful when you get to hear from people and how they're able to tell you how it started off as a dream, or it's something they were just doing as a hobby. And one day, after hard work, prayer, support, they were able to achieve that and have that, make that passion their business, lucrative business. So I leave that out. We need that.
But it's like my mom always, told us when we were younger to find something that you love to do, and then find a way to be really good at it, and then find somebody to pay you as much as possible for it, and never in the reverse order. Because if you are chasing the money and you're chasing excellence for the sake of the money, it's like the goalpost is going to keep moving because you're never going to have enough money and you're never going to be good enough to, like you're going to feel like you're never good enough to earn the money that you want. And so it creates this self-esteem crisis, if you will. And it's tragic, actually, because you can still be doing a lot of great good in the world without necessarily making six figures. And you can also be very rich without making six figures. When you think about life and you think about, you think about things beyond monetary value, but like, what is the value of the homemaker who was able to be with her kids day in, day out and teach them or even homeschool them, and the relationship that she has and the memories that the kids are able to have with her, or the dad that is able to, work from home or, have a situation where he's able to be more present in the lives of his kids than he ever had and from his father, right? Like these type of things are generational impacts and generational changes that you can't put a price on that. And so, I definitely encourage folks to, pursue your purpose and your dream. If you don't know what that is, to take the time to discover that, and to not compare yourself to other people. Not everybody is wired to be a number one. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with being a number two. And when I say a number two, that means that, you're really great at what you do, but what you do great needs to be under somebody that is more of a visionary and shares your values, and really celebrates, what you have to offer, because they need what you got, if you will. They don't have that. They can lead and they can visualize and they can guide the ship, but they can't make it happen not to the level that they would without you. And so, do you know what I mean? And so you might be their who, you know what I mean? That they're looking for. And hopefully that is also a beautiful relationship, that you're able to enjoy. And that's awesome, because you don't have the burden and the sleepless nights of worrying about the whole thing as much. You get to just go and do what you do and still play a significant role. So I think that sometimes being a business owner and being the CEO, or being, as they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's not all glitz and glamour. And so I always like to tell people, like, it's not, I've had people say, well, it's, you're your own boss and you can do what you want to do. Like, yeah, but there are consequences for those choices. And so, I can do what I want to do, but I won't, because I know I don't want to suffer the consequences of those choices.
Exactly. Yeah, you want your business to be thriving, and you have a little bit of flexibility, right?
Yeah.
You still have to get that done. It's just kind of like you're working for someone, and let's say it's 8 hours that's required there, and typically it's usually less. You still have those 8 hours or whatever it is, 7 hours that you have to get in. It may just be starting a little later in the day. You might be working the swing shift, one day, so you can get other things done. And so there's that flexibility, and that's beautiful, especially when it comes to making sure that you're navigating when you have a family, and taking care of all those other responsibilities, or doing those pleasurable things, not missing those things like kids' games and recitals and whatnot. But you still got to get to the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you
Yeah,
want.
and it, I mean, regardless of what's going on with me personally, like the business still needs what it needs, right? So
Mhm.
I can't just be like, oh well, but I have this going on. It's like, yeah, but the business also has this going on. So you can't just put it down and be like, it's supposed to understand. It does not. It does not care. And so being able to, that's where also having the right supports in place, and then also just figuring out how do I kind of run this marathon. And so if I was like, for me right now, like there's practices right where I'm the sole owner of my practice. I have,
Mhm.
a fairly large practice, and I own the whole thing. I have friends who went into it together, and they have a partnership.
Right.
Um, and there are pros and cons to that too. Sometimes I envy them because I'm like, man, like y'all have, at least you have each other, and you can shoulder it, and like when the other one needs to take a break or something's going on, the other one can pick it up.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case, because sometimes the other one can't pick it up because they're not good at that,
Mhm.
or sometimes the two partners don't agree on how things should be done, and they got to wrestle over the vision. And so I'm like, okay, well, now I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. But like, so it's just, regardless, there's different trade-offs and there's different things to consider, and just your temperament, the people you work with, or whether it be your number two or
Mhm.
your partner who you're sharing it with. Um, there's just a lot that goes into it. You
Just got
know,
to
yeah.
get
So
your mind right going into
yeah,
it. Making sure
yeah,
you have all those, weighing those pros and cons. And then
right,
too, even with that, I'm sure, things will change along the way as you grow, as your business grows.
yeah.
As
They
your
have,
your
absolutely.
partner grows, if you have, a partner,
Mhm.
if you go into it with a partner. So yeah.
Right.
Um, so we're going to close out, but I wanted to see if you had any last words, tips, advice, encouragement, and then I would love for you to share how our audience can get in contact with you, if they're seeking services or if they just want to follow you and maybe, chat with you and pick your brain. Um, so yeah, if you could just share your last bit of advice or tips, or encouragement, and then your social media information.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, they, how to get in touch with me, the best way is to go to our website, greatlifeconsults.com.
Mhm.
And you can fill out the contact us form on the bottom, and that there you can, somebody will be reaching out to you, whether it be my assistant or whether it be one of the members of my team, to kind of explore your interest in services and how we can be of service to you. See.
Instagram, is it
Hmm?
Dr. Your Instagram, and what's your handle on Instagram and Facebook, if you'd like to share?
My handle on Instagram, let's see here. I'm sorry. Um, is Dr. K Lambert.
Oh.
Um, yeah.
So Dr. K Lambert, guys, just in case you guys want to, follow and see the amazing things that are happening at Great Life is it? No, Great Life Counseling, right? Okay. And so thank you so much for that. I appreciate you so much for coming on and just
Thank you for
telling,
having me.
sharing your story, because I know a lot of people just need that encouragement. So many times we just need to see it, to to believe that we can be that too, that we can make that happen for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you so much for coming on and joining us this evening. And to our audience, thank you so much for always coming out and supporting us. We appreciate you. And we'll be back, here in 2 weeks for another episode of Transforming with V. Have a wonderful night and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.